Cool, wicked. So, who are we, and what makes us qualified to chat about GEO? Well, the truth is, I'm not qualified. Is the frank truth? My name's Andy. I'm the founder of a business called Hot Source. We help businesses to hire overseas in South Africa and India. Great people, but typically a fraction across the UK. So nothing to do with GEO. I'm also the chairman of a founder community called Founder Nation. And we are running more of these masterclasses more regularly on a range of different topics that myself, but other founders, business operators are really keen to learn more about. And GEO is obviously one of those very hot topics that comes up regularly because people are increasingly themselves using it, but I'm increasingly aware that their customers are searching on AI rather than Googling. And fortunately, we've got Jake, who's a member of the Foundation community, who happens to be a fractional CTO, a founder of Grow Fast, and is a bit of a whiz on GEOs, helped a number of clients with it. And so he's volunteered to put together this kind of masterclass and take us through some of those basics. But Jake, I'll let you do a bit of a better intro to yourself.
Hey everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for joining today. I appreciate taking the time out of your day to come to this. I recognize some names pop up in the chat from the States as well. So good morning to you, James and Joe, and some of our existing clients here as well today. So thanks for taking the time. Like Andy said, I'm Jake, founder of Grow Fast. We're a digital consultancy and we help small to medium businesses with their AI implementation and business growth using technology. We expanded into the world of GEO as chatbots have evolved. And now with the new AI-centric browsers being released, like ChatGPT's Atlas and other browsers, we see the opportunity for GEO as something which simply now cannot be ignored. Ooh, there we go. So let's get started. What's actually happening in the market right now? Well, here's some good stats. 71% of organizations are using AI search in at least one business function. It's not a future trend. That's the majority of businesses today already using ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, whatever it might be. And ChatGPT alone is processing 2.5 billion prompts every single day. If you think about how many questions, searches, and conversation that represents, it's huge. And they've got 800 million weekly active users, still ChatGPT alone. And to put that all into perspective, that's more than the entire population of Europe using ChatGPT every single week for you Americans. So here's the key question, and this is what it really boils down to. When somebody asks ChatGPT about your industry, about where you should come up, does it recommend you or a competitor? Because somebody's getting recommended. And the question really is that you? Now you might be thinking, okay, Jake, interesting stats, but what does this actually mean to my bottom line? Here's what this actually matters. Customers coming from AI search spend 4.4 times more than regular visitors. We're not talking 10% more, 4.5 times more, which is insane. They also convert at higher rates than organic search traffic. And AI search traffic has grown 527% in 5 months, and it's showing no signs of slowing down. The projection is that AI search will match traditional search in economic value, actual money, in 2027, and that's only a year away. It's not a future thing, and it's happening quicker than we can even think about. But why are these visitors worth more? The fact is they've been pre-qualified as prospects by the AI chatbot. So when they land on your site, their buying intent is already high. The AI has essentially done the vetting for you and said, yeah, this company looks like a good fit for exactly what you need.
There's a lot of trust with AI when you've had a conversation with it and you make a recommendation. So, but I think, Jake, one of the things that I noticed is a lot of gurus online talking about GEO and obviously highlighting that it's a growing market. But I haven't met anyone who's doing it actually and seeing results from it. Do you have any businesses that you've worked with, clients of yours, that you maybe can quote some examples of, like some of the services they sell, products they sell, and have seen tangible results from it?
I absolutely can. So one springs to mind straight away. Our clients typically see their AI-referred visitors request demos and purchases at about 4 to 9 times the rate of their regular web traffic. For one particular client, it's kind of around that region. We've helped that client go from 0 AI citations to being one of the primary recommendations in their 3 highest value commercial searches. We're not targeting like random high level fluff, what their customers are asking ChatGPT for them to show up, which means that they might buy from them. But we'll come to that later on in the slides. But what that actually meant for them was that they started generating an extra 8K a month from AI referrals. And again, we'll go into that a bit later.
Because the leads coming from that were just X amount, 4 to 9 times more likely to book a demo.
They're super hot, even if you look at every age range, every demographic, if they've spoken to ChatGPT or even seen Google's AI overview, the chance that they trust that because they've had that conversation with that model and the model has asked them questions about what they want, what they actually need, what their price range is, what their budget is, all of these pre-qualifying questions, and then they've got to a result which has recommended you.
Yeah.
You think, are you going to go there or are you going to spend 3 hours trawling Google and looking at reviews yourself? I know which one that I'd probably end up doing.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So what actually is GEO? And well, GEO stands for Generative Engine Optimization. And essentially it's around publishing and structuring your content so that AI engines cite, summarize, or link your brands in their response. Now it's different from SEO, although they do work brilliantly together. You're not just ignoring SEO here kind of thing. You're not trying to rank #1 on Google either. So it's kind of a different game, but it relates to SEO a little bit. It's not about rankings, and it's kind of about being trusted by AI systems. Here's something crucial to understand. You can be #1 on Google for a keyword, but still not get cited by ChatGPT. So what you're aiming for is this. When AI answers questions in your space, those high intent questions, you want to be the source it trusts and cites, and that's the goal that we're trying to achieve with GEO. So how do you actually do this? We're going to break it down into 3 phases: technical optimization, competitive analysis and differentiation strategy, and content optimization. And over the next few slides, we're going to cover the key points for each section. Starting with the technical side. It's the foundation for everything else which is going to follow. This is like the foundations of your house before you build it. If you miss this, then the house might subside or fall down, or if it's not already, it might do in 5 or 10 years. So it's important to get right. So the first thing is making sure that AI can actually read your content. And the problem for the problem is simple. Some websites have great content, but it's just not formatted for AI. They've got brilliant information, but AI systems can't extract it properly. The fix is a thing called schema markup. It's machine readable labels that help AI understand and quote your content. Think of it as like adding subtitles for robots. So why is schema markup so important? Well, it's because AI systems favor structured data. At the end of the day, they're all machines. It reduces ambiguity and it speeds up extraction from billions of web pages. Here's a specific example. ChatGPT checks the person schema in 70.4% of citations to verify author credentials. It does this before recommending sources, so it's actually looking for the structured data to validate that authority. The business case is super clear. Pages with schema are 3 times more likely to earn their AI citations. And without it, AI can't reliably find or recommend your expertise. So you're essentially making the AI work harder to understand your existing content. And honestly, the harder it has to work, the more likely it is to go and find that information from somewhere else. So a practical example of what schema markup actually does. Without schema, you might have text on your site that says, like on the left, we're a wedding band agency, we've won 3 awards, and we played at 700 plus weddings. AI sees that as just text with no context, and it might miss it entirely when someone asks for recommendations. With schema markup, you're essentially labeling that information. Organization, luxury wedding band agency. Award, best wedding entertainment 2023, 24, 25, etc. Now AI sees clear structure, high authority signals, and it's more likely to cite you when somebody asks about wedding bands. It's exactly the same information, but one is barely visible to AI, and the other is crystal clear. So what schema types should you prioritize? Well, I'm going to run through these key ones. FAQ schema first. Content with this is 89% more likely to be cited. Use this on your services pages. It's massively effective there. Organization schema establishes authority for AI systems. Apply this to your about page or home page. Person schema, Remember I mentioned that ChatGPT checks this in 70.4% of citations. Use this for team bios or founder pages to verify your credentials. Article schema identifies author credentials. Implement this on blog posts and case studies. Product and service schema. Make your pricing and reviews clear and citable for AI, ideal for your offerings or services page. Now, how do you actually implement this? Well, you've got three options depending on your technical setup and comfort level. Option one, if you're using a CMS like WordPress or another one out there on the market, for example, like Wix, plugins like Yoast SEO or Rank Math let you just tick boxes and fill in forms to add the schema. So it's really, really easy to do this if you've got an existing CMS. You just need to either check that it's not there and add it in, or just tick the box and find out where it is. Alternatively, Google has structured data markup helper that you can use. If you just search for that, it'll come up straight away and it will give you exactly what you need. Or if your website's a little bit more complicated, and like me, you create websites directly from code, you can ask your web developer to add the JSON code to your website header. The schema code sits in your website's HTML and it's completely invisible to visitors, but visible to AI. Perhaps I can show you. So just quickly, this is our website. Oh, you can't see. Oh, that's not very good.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't show you that then. But it's right at the top of the. I wonder if I can. No, I can only share a tab. Okay, well I can't share it, but I'll maybe I can send across an example. So phase two, competitive analysis and differentiation strategy, and this is where things get quite interesting. Now, this is a bit of homework that I promised to give you all, so please go away and do this. We're going to find some we're going to find some of your key citation gaps for your website. And citation gaps are high intent search inquiries where either your business isn't ranking at all or the quality of the response from your competitor is poor. And this shows you if there's an opportunity for you to get cited. And to find this is actually quite simple and free. If you ask ChatGPT a high intent question your actual customers would ask, and make sure you're in a private browser to do this, by the way. For example, like an example for us would be a high intent question might be, where can I find an AI advisor for my small UK business? See who it recommends. Is it you or a competitor? And then do the same thing across Claude, Google AI, and Perplexity. If you compare the results, look who's getting mentioned, what content they're being cited for, and how the AI is describing them. So for instance, if a competitor is being cited, but you think the content being referenced is pretty average, or the AI seems to be talking about them in a fairly neutral way, this would be a really good opportunity for you to do better. And this helps you identify those citation gaps for free. After you've identified where your competitors get cited and you're trying to capture their citations, here are some strategies that work. First, create digital assets. Original research and proprietary stats lead to a 65% improvement in citations. Named frameworks and methodologies that AI can reference. These work brilliantly. An example of this is we developed our own framework for identifying AI opportunities within businesses. It's called our impact framework, and AI uses this when citing our business. Fill their content gaps. Target question clusters where competitors give incomplete or poor answers. Look at the people also ask questions they're ignoring as well. This is a perfect opportunity for blog posts and a strategy that we use to actually plan our own. We've had some recent success using this approach with an article covering the costs of fractional CTOs. This started getting picked up significantly by AI chatbots and more specifically Google's AI overview actually. Exploit platform gaps. Identify where your competitors are performing poorly and dominate where they're weak. For example, with your homework earlier, if a competitor isn't performing on Perplexity, this might be a good place to target. But we'll go into this a bit more later. And ideally, you'll have found this from the homework earlier. Strategic focus is important. If you prioritize high commercial intent queries that actually drive conversions, that's a really good place to start. And finally, consider gating those premium insights to maintain competitive advantage. Not everything needs to be free and public. And an example of this might be your internal resources or tools that you use to provide services for your clients.
Can I ask a little question? I appreciate that's probably quite a lot for people to absorb as we go and understand. Just want to reiterate, guys, if you head to the bottom right of your screens, the little dot icons, you can select Q&A and you can submit your questions, and we can pick that up as we go. Yeah, just wanted to reiterate that, because I think there's obviously a lot to digest here with that exercise.
Absolutely. So phase 3 is content optimization. And this is where you make sure your content is actually structured for AI. We use the FLIP framework to guide content creation. It's 4 factors that AI systems prefer. Freshness, recently updated content. AI always checks the date. And if your content is 2 years old, there's something from last month answering the same question. Guess which one gets cited? Local intent, location-specific answers. AI loves being able to give relevant local answers. In-depth context, comprehensive guides, not thin content. AI doesn't want surface-level fluff. It wants detailed, thorough answers it can confidently cite. Personalization, content tailored to the specific audiences or use cases. The more specific and targeted, the better. Content that satisfies 2 or more of these FLIP factors should be prioritized for GEO optimization. Why? Because it's more likely to trigger real-time web searches by AI, which means more chances to get cited. And for reference, when I say real-time web searches, if you're not covering 2 or more of these, then it's more likely to get the knowledge from its knowledge bank, not to search the web.
Can I ask a cheeky question here, Jake? With freshness, is it possible just to go and update everything yourself once a month? Even if nothing about the content changes, can you just update the date to make it look fresh as without actually having to update it every month?
You absolutely can. You know, if you scroll down to the bottom of some people's websites, they've got a date on the bottom.
Yeah.
Normally it says like the brand and the date. And if this date says like 2017 or something like that, then instantly ChatGPT reads that and is like, okay, well, this whole site is quite old, so I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to bother.
Yeah.
So if things like that are up to date, and you know, you should be going through your website frequently anyway to make sure that people that are seeing your work get an accurate representation.
We've had a couple of questions come in that I think are good and worth. They're more addressed at the schema implementation.
Yeah, I mean, if we can come back to those at the end, that would be really good. And if there's a couple of questions that link to the same thing and we don't have time at the end, then I can always send out an email to people that have asked the questions.
Cool.
So there's something really important to note about how AI actually reads your content. AI doesn't read your entire web page from top to bottom like a human would, or how SEO would read your page. It breaks it down into chunks. I don't know why that's highlighted, sorry. Typically a few hundred words each. Then it picks the most relevant chunks, not the entire page. So each paragraph and each section needs to make sense independently. It has to be able to stand alone. Here's a random example with boiler installations. The bad or an optimized version might be something like this. There are several things to consider. First, you need to think about your home. Then there's a question of timing. This might work in a really long blog post or on your website, but it doesn't work if somebody's extracting that and reading it as a chunk. And it tells you absolutely nothing. The AI reads it and goes, that doesn't answer the question, and moves on to the next site. The better version looks like this. How long does a boiler installation take? Standard boiler installations take 1 to 2 days for most UK homes. Combi boiler installations take on average 6 to 8 hours, etc. Spot the difference? Direct answer, specific numbers, immediately useful. And no surprise, that's what gets cited. Right for extraction and not full page reading. Every paragraph should be able to stand alone and answer a specific question. FAQs. This is one of the most powerful techniques for GEO. AI wants direct answers, and most websites waffle. They dance around the question, use fluffy language, and take forever to get to the point. The fix is adding FAQ sections, answering real customer questions that people have actually asked you. Think about what what people have asked you in the last week, and that's probably a good place to start with. Here's the structure. 1, question as a heading, H1 or H2 format. Then immediately after the heading, a 40 to 60 word answer. Boom, right there, answer the bloody question. Then after that, direct answer, you can add supporting details, expand with context, evidence, examples, whatever makes sense. That's your opportunity to waffle if you really must.
One of the questions that Jimflow asked is, what are the best ways to find prompts that potential customers are using? And I remember you one piece of advice you gave before, Jake, which I think is really relevant to that question, is what questions have you been asked? But specifically, if you have a sales process, what are the objections that customers raise? What are the discovery questions that you go through as part of your sales process is a really good. I remember that was your advice before, Jay, that you've given me before, and I thought that was that puts it really into perspective, because that's a call that we look at in detail regularly, because obviously it's such an important call for us, and we have a lot of objections that we record from those calls. And that's Jimflow, as an answer to your question, that's probably a really great place to look. Obviously, not every business has a sales call in their process, but I think that's a really good piece of advice that Jake gave me before.
Yeah, exactly. And if your business doesn't have sales calls, I think every business owner or business leader should have a good inkling of what people are searching that they want to show up for. Like I gave that example earlier of find me recommendations of an AI advisor in the UK in 2025 or something like that. Now I want to show up for that query, so I'm going to optimize my website and content to reflect that. And if you think about that for whatever your product, service, offering might be, then you can kind of do the same thing. Or equally, if you're really lazy, you could just ask ChatGPT for those questions, I suppose. But that's a really lazy option.
If you've done SEO before, is there a way, one of Jimflow's questions is, can you just adapt those SEO keywords to and look at those as will they directly translate into what people might be searching?
Potentially, yes. But I don't want to get stuck on too many questions here, because I want to get the content out and then we can come back to more of these at the end, I think.
Cool.
Where was I? So FAQ structured content with schema markup increases visibility in AI search results significantly because it matches natural query patterns and improves AI comprehension. It's formatted the way that AI likes to consume information. It also helps people like me with ADHD who just want to get a straight answer. And it's super low hanging fruit. Adding proper FAQ sections can add a massive difference. And you can just add them to the bottom of your website. It doesn't matter where they are. Now, AI is cautious about who it recommends, which makes complete sense if you think about it. If ChatGPT recommends a dodgy company and someone loses money, this reflects badly on ChatGPT. So you need to follow what's called the EEAT framework, and this comes from SEO. But AI systems put more emphasis on it. Experience, show that you've actually done the work. Case studies, examples, real projects with real outcomes. Expertise, display qualifications and certifications prominently on your website. Make it super obvious you know what you're talking about, and do not hide your credentials at the bottom of your page or on an about page. It's your chance to shout about yourself and what you do. Authoritativeness, industry recognition, awards, and things that validate your position in the market. Third-party validation, if you've got any, really does matter. And finally, trustworthiness. Reviews, guarantees, and real results with verifiable data. Proof that you deliver what you promise. And AI models explicitly prioritize credible sources that demonstrate these EEAT signals. Authoritative content significantly outperforms shallow material in AI citations. So when we're going beyond EEAT, when we're talking about GEO, we come to something called authority stacking. And these are 6 signals that compound to build your overall authority in AI's eyes. You don't need all 6 immediately, but the more you have, the stronger your position. Domain authority is the foundation for all of this. AI checks your site age, your SSL certificate, your contact information, and your content. Review density is massive. AI wants to see a 70% plus review rating with the reviews on 3 different platforms if you can, with recent ones. So get some reviews across Google, Trustpilot, and an industry site if you can. External mentions. AI looks beyond your website. It looks at Wikipedia, Reddit, media coverage. If you start answering some questions on Reddit in your industry and try and get featured in at least one trade publication, you stand a good chance here. And schema markup. We've spoken about this in depth already, so I'm not going to go over it again, but organization, person, and FAQ schemas implemented, and distribution footprint. Be visible across channels, or even do that podcast you've been thinking about. It all helps. Content recency is crucial here, actually, with 64% of citation that go to 2024 to 2025 content. And it might be time to give that content a refresh, even if that's just changing the year at the bottom of your page, like Andy said. And these signals compound. Get 3 or 4 of these in place and AI starts seeing you everywhere. That's when you start to become the go-to source. So what kind of results can you actually expect from GEO? Well, not all AI platforms are the same and they do behave differently. ChatGPT acts like a helpful assistant giving personalized recommendations. It's conversational and it tries to understand what you really need, giving you tailored advice. Google's AI overview appears in 57% of searches now, and it acts more like a research librarian. Factual, structured, and pulling data from multiple sources and presenting them quite formally. Whereas Perplexity shows transparent citations with direct links, and actually has the highest click-through rate of any platform. And there's only an 11% overlap between those platforms. So you need platform-specific strategies suited to your desired business outcomes. So you need to think about where your customers are actually searching and prioritize those first.
Jake, do you have a little more detail on maybe how in a real world scenario you've maybe how would your strategy differ between, like, if let's say you want to go after Perplexity because it's got a higher click-through rate, how would that strategy differ versus maybe trying to get feature cited on ChatGPT?
Well, that's an interesting problem. So ChatGPT generally cites around 2.5 sources per response. It takes the knowledge from its training data and it pulls data from selective web searches. So it's very selective. So your strategy for ChatGPT should focus on those comprehensive guides and conversational content. Perplexity is a bit different. It cites a few more sources. So it cites on average 6.5 sources per response. It's doing those real-time web searches, much more research orientated, and your Perplexity strategy should focus on that fresh content, quotable facts, and time-sensitive queries. So for Perplexity, for example, we do a weekly AI update newsletter on our blog, and that tends to do quite well with Perplexity. So it shows really fresh content, news that's happening every week, and it's fresh. So the difference to remember is ChatGPT rewards depth and authority, and Perplexity rewards freshness and external validation.
Okay, interesting.
So AI recommendations aren't stable like Google rankings. So with Google, you might hit page 1 for a keyword and you could stay there for months or even years with minimal maintenance and maybe a blog every now and again. But AI is constantly changing, and GEO requires strategic updating, and a set and forget strategy might get you cited once, but it won't kind of build your brand. And here's the upside, and it's really important. Those early movers that maintain freshness build compounding advantages. And like I said, if you get in now and keep your content fresh and you establish yourself as a reliable current source, you win long term. We got some top tips at the bottom of this slide for maintaining freshness, and I'll share the slide with you all after so that you can read through this at your own time as well. So how do you actually measure GEO success, and what numbers should you really be tracking? First, AI referral traffic. Track the traffic that's coming from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and other AI platforms. And you can use Google Analytics for this, and we'll show you in another slide a bit later how you do it. Second, citation rate. What percentage of high intent target queries mention you? It's about quality and not quantity. So you can use GEO tools like Otterly AI or do that manual testing across platforms we spoke about earlier. Third, conversion rate from AI visitors. This typically is higher than traditional traffic, but you need to make sure you're measuring it properly. And fourth, competitive share of voice. Your mentions versus your competitors. How does your citation rate compare? Again, GEO tools or manual testing can help with this.
One quick question on that, which came from Gavin, was just asking, is there a console similar to Google Search Console, but specifically for maybe like a chat GPT? I'm guessing that would come under the tool that you mentioned in your last slide.
Yeah, so in a slide coming up in this slide actually is where you can see your AI referrals if you set it up correctly.
Cool.
Leads me nicely onto this, Andy. So how would I set this up in Google Analytics? This is a screenshot from the start of a client journey with us to help demonstrate. So first, if you set up a new exploration in Google's GA4 Analytics portal, and what that means is it's just like a custom report, and you might have some of these set up already, and you can plot the source or medium and page location against those sessions, event counts, and key events. And this shows you where the traffic is coming from and what they're doing on your website. You can see it down here, chatgpt.com, sources, parties, and you can see the sessions, users, and events which happen on your website. And you can set this up for free all on your own. And then you can monitor the number of AI referrals and the key events they're triggering. So we've got ChatGPT showing up as a referral source on this, and you can see the sessions, like I said, all through this free portal. And it's a you kind of don't need any special tools for this, but it's just a bit ugly, but it works. It won't give you some like nice fancy graphs, I suppose, but ugly, but it works and it's free. So what's not to love about that? These are the biggest mistakes that we see some people make with GEO. If you avoid these, then you're probably ahead of most people. First, and this is the obvious one, waiting too long until competitors have already established authority positions. Early mover advantage is real here. And if you think back to the early days of SEO, when that was first coming out, if you would have got ranked for a high search term then, you probably still are now. Second, wrong mindset. Treating GEO like traditional SEO rankings is fundamentally a different game. And what you might do here might not rank you as #1 on Google. Third, technical barriers. Creating content that AI can't read. Some sites are dynamic, they're JavaScript heavy, that don't render properly for AI crawlers. And if you fix those technical foundations first, then you stand a good chance of getting cited. Wix and other CSM platforms kind of do this out the box, which is good. Fourth, set and forget. Updating once and assuming that you're done. And if you remember that volatility we just talked about, it requires ongoing maintenance. And fifth, wrong focus. Chasing citation volume instead of high intent queries. 10 citations on random questions aren't as valuable as 1 citation on a high intent query that actually could drive revenue to your website, which is similar to SEO. So what results can you expect to achieve? Well, a real client example, because this demonstrates what is actually possible here. So this is for a boutique service agency that we've worked with. So before GEO optimization, they were completely invisible to AI search, 0 citations across ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Google AI. And they were relying solely on traditional SEO and getting about 10 monthly inquiries from organic search. And after a 90-day implementation, they're getting cited in AI engines across 3 different platforms. They get 18 monthly additional inquiries, which translated for them to 8,000 per month in additional revenue. So what did we change? We changed a lot. We implemented schema markup across the site. We launched a review campaign to get 30+ reviews across Google and Trustpilot. We created comparison content and comprehensive guides that AI loves to cite. We fixed invisible authority signals. Some were technical fixes and others content-based. They just weren't shouting about themselves enough. They won awards and they weren't showing them. And we created an awards and media page and a proper about page. We updated the content with 2025 data to show freshness, and we added 3 video testimonials for trustworthiness. 90 days from invisible to cited across all 3 platforms. That's what's possible when you kind of do this properly.
One of those things that you put in brackets there, 3 video testimonials with transcripts, because I guess that the AI can't digest the video itself, but maybe needs to have that the transcript in as like like a kind of like a tag on those videos that it can read in the code.
That's exactly right. So your best bet with videos, if you're comfortable, put them on YouTube first,
Yeah.
and then put an iframe of the YouTube video in your website. And you can also add in like a video object schema to that with the transcript as well. But AI does a lot of its learning and citations on YouTube as well. So by doing both, you kind of putting yourself out there a bit more, which helps.
So actually being on YouTube is important. Actually helps. This links a little bit to a question Nathaniel submitted, which is many websites display their qualifications or certificates as images in a banner style. Would I be right in assuming AI can't compute this very well as it's not structured or signposted?
That's exactly right.
Similar answer, right?
Yeah, it's like the best way that I can describe that is it viewing your website is like it can't see any images. It's just looking at the raw text that's on your website. So with that, with awards and clients you've worked with, there's schema for that. So you can put that into schema and put descriptions on your photos as well. So it knows exactly what the photo is.
Yeah.
Because if it's just like you see on some websites, they put pictures in there, but the title of the picture is like WhatsApp image, which doesn't tell it anything apart from
I guarantee you'll have at least 5 of those on my website right now.
Cool. Have a look at those. They're important to get right as well. It's those little things that make a big kind of impact.
Cool.
So I want to leave you with this thought. And when businesses adopted SEO and Google Ads in the early 2000s, early adopters gained significant first mover advantages. They dominated in their industry for years because they got there first. When content creators joined social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok early, they built audiences that took years to replicate. And now AI search is following the same pattern, but the window is narrower. It's moving faster than those previous shifts. So the question is, will you be the early adopter this time or the one playing catch up in 2 years when everyone's using ChatGPT's new browser and talking about how they should have started GEO back in 2025? So the opportunity for this, I think, is right now. And that's what we're here to help you with, which leads me nicely onto this. So we've covered a lot, and I know it can feel super overwhelming because there's so much information to consume all at once. I guess it's good news because we can help with that. And this QR code will take you to a form. And if you fill out that form, we're going to pick 5 people for a free hour-long GEO consultation with their websites. We'll have a look into your website and we'll give you specific recommendations. And if you've got any questions or want to chat if you want to chat about any of this, my details are here on the side. So feel free to reach out. So I'll just pause here and give people time to scan the QR code. Oh, maybe not. I'll go back.
Well, everyone will get a copy, so they'll have the option to be able to scan it afterwards as well if they want.
Yeah, well, I'll just give it a minute.
Cool. Well, the next slide is FAQs, isn't it? And just revisiting some of the questions we've had. We've had some great questions come in, by the way. We're probably going to put you on the hot seat now, Jake. One question from Dan. One of the first questions we had was just, how effective are vibe coding tools at implementing schema markup? That's a great question. I've been wondering that myself.
So it depends how your website is structured. And if it's all written in code, then it should be fairly simple to ask whoever's made it, like Lovable, Cursor, or Claude Code or whatever, to implement schema markup into your website. It does, however, get a little bit tricky because if you replicate identical schema on different pages, Google's search console picks up on this and it flags it as an error. So you have to be cautious in where you're putting it and making sure that that schema is only listed once in one page.
Okay, interesting. So it can be done, but you need to be cautious with it. It's probably the
yeah, exactly. And to see if Google has flagged it, if you update your page with schema, for example, and then if you go to Google Search Console and request indexing, then they should tell you in 24 to 48 hours if it's caused a problem their side. Because I guess what we kind of don't want to do is we don't want to make you really good for GEO, but then undo all of the hard work that's been done with SEO. So we're trying to make the two work in tandem at the kind of best possible outcome.
Cool. I hope that answered your question, Dan. I think the other thing I would add to that is I know a lot of people who build vibe coding apps, but they still have the actual website, which is the landing page for their business, will be built on like a more SEO and GEO friendly like CMS platform like Wix or WordPress. So that might, if you're struggling to get that to work on a vibe coding tool, it might be worth having your website built on a different platform, and then having it linked, the login button takes them to the web app, which was actually where your vibe coding app is built. So that's an alternative as well, potentially.
Absolutely. And if you're struggling, just reach out and ask if I can help you, because like I said, our website's all in code as well. So we have a very similar situation.
A question from James, which I think was relevant to the schema topic you were talking about. Is the schema you suggested the same as that SEO has been using, or are there sovereign AIs? Are the sovereign AIs releasing their own schema sort of types?
No, it's exactly the same. Yeah. So the SEO schema applies to GEO as well, but typically people kind of leave the schema until last, or for certain things like FAQs or reviews or video object schema, like it's just not considered that much. So typically it's kind of there's a little bit there on your website. You can have a look at the source code if you open the developer tools, which I kind of wanted to show, but I can't for some reason. If you open the developer tools on the right hand side, if you look at the code structure, and there'll be like a JSON tag. If you drop that down, then you can see your schema in your website, or you can just copy all of that and put it into Claude or ChatGPT and ask it if there's schema there, and then it will soon tell you.
At the moment, the AI platforms are using the existing SEO schemas well.
That's exactly right.
Need to customize it. Cool. Wicked. Do you think, Daniel asked, is SEO a long-term play? SEO is a long-term play. Is GEO as well? It sounds like it takes some time to build up. It sounds like everything you described is like, it sounds complicated, but it seemed like a relatively short step. You've delivered results within 3 months. So how long-term is GEO in your minds versus SEO typically is reviewed as quite a long-term strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that GEO is a long-term play because, we're seeing AI-centric browsers come out now with ChatGPT's Atlas, and Perplexity have released their own browser as well. So it's definitely a long-term play. But I think the key difference between SEO and GEO is you're more likely to see results with GEO a bit faster than SEO, just because purely it's a less crowded space at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
We might see that timescale increase over time, but at the moment, you start writing today and optimizing for GEO, and you might see results in a little as a month. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, cool. It's kind of both.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wicked. That's encouraging. I think everyone wants to see more immediate results. The example you gave of seeing results within 3 months is pretty tangible, and I feel like that makes it a little bit more exciting. But yeah, cool. Good question. Coming back to my point about updating freshness obviously freshness you highlighted a couple of times is really important for citations. He mentions you just need to update the dates to keep them fresh, rather than having to come up with new blog ideas and content creation. Like out of necessity, you can just update the dates potentially to keep that fresh. I mentioned
if you're really lazy, then sure, but I don't. It might help you out a little bit, sure, but it's just the lazy option. I mean, that could help you in some respect, yes, because then Google will also see your site as being updated frequently and often if that's something that you do. But you should be looking at your website content at least annually, if not more than that, because things change and you get more reviews that you can shout about, more case studies and more awards, and things that people typically get and leave that they should shout about and should definitely update.
What I'm hearing from that, Danny's question is it's probably it's a small win, so it's probably worth doing for the sake of it for some of your older content that's performed well, but it's probably also worth just adding to it as you go and making that investment to get the maximum results out of it.
Exactly. Like if a blog post worked in the past or a page worked in the past, then you can always rework it and then republish it with a different kind of steer. I'm just conscious of people's time, Andy. I want you to get your slide on there at the end as well before people start dropping off to their next meeting.
Yeah,
So,
cool. Yeah. Well, look, yeah, I just want to thank Jake actually for running an awesome masterclass, going through it in detail. Obviously, he's offered his time as well, and he's got an awesome, hour-long kind of conversation that he's offered for people to jump on with him if they've got follow-up questions. So, Jake, really appreciate you putting time and energy into educating everyone and giving us your knowledge. Yeah, this is a masterclass we're doing as part of a wider and more regular Founder Nation community that I run. We run social events, breakfast events, and also, more ongoing masterclasses on a variety of topics. If you're a founder, you want to meet some really cool, like-minded people building cool shit, honestly, like, reach out. You can scan the code. Obviously, my details are on the right there as well. Just reach out. We'd love to get you involved. And if you're actually curious about potentially hiring someone full-time to come on, and actually manage this for you, whether that be a GEO specialist or just a more another marketing type role, obviously Hot Source is a really good option. We help businesses hire from just 12 grand a year, often in marketing roles, in both South Africa and India as well. So it's a really good option if you're interested in learning more about that. Would also be happy to chat with you. So yeah, that's my plug over. And I just want to say thanks to Jake. I know we didn't get through all the questions, so I'm sorry about that. But we will we'll take a note of anyone that we didn't answer, and maybe we can do a quick follow-up to you as well, just to answer those questions offline. So I'll send across the recording if you want to share it with anyone, or just recap on anything you missed. We'll send that out via email. But thank you everyone for joining. It's been a real pleasure, and catch you all soon.